This is not a story about evil. This is not a story about power. This is a story about a man who wanted to be seen. For a long time, nobody looked at him. He could stand in a room full of people and still feel alone. He learned very early that silence can make a person disappear. When he was a child, he was quiet, not because he was afraid, but because he listened more than he spoke. Adults liked him. Teachers said he was easy. He did not cause problems. He did not ask for attention. And because of that, he slowly became invisible. At home, voices were louder than him. Other people decided things. Other people spoke first. He waited. He learned to wait very well. Waiting became normal. Waiting became safe. Nobody asked what he wanted. Nobody asked what he felt. Outside, the world moved fast. Children ran. They shouted. They pushed forward. He walked behind them. Not angry, not sad, just unnoticed. When he spoke, others spoke louder. When he stopped speaking, nothing changed. He noticed something important. When he was quiet, the world stayed the same. When others were loud, the world reacted. Doors opened, faces turned, laughter followed. Silence brought nothing. At school, he sat in the same place, day after day. Teachers looked over him. Questions passed him by. If he raised his hand, someone else was chosen. If he stayed quiet, nobody cared. Both ways felt the same. He did not think people were cruel. He did not think the world was unfair. He thought the problem was simple. He was small, not in size, but in presence. He existed, but he did not matter. At night, when the noise was gone, he felt it the most. The quiet was heavy. It pressed on him. In that quiet, a thought slowly appeared. A simple thought, dangerous because it felt true. If nobody sees you, you are nothing. This thought did not make him angry, not yet. It made him watch. He watched how people spoke. He watched who was respected. He watched who was ignored. And he began to understand the rules of attention. Silence, he learned, does not protect you. Silence hides you. And he did not want to hide forever. He learned how to stay small, not in one day, but slowly. The world taught him. When he spoke less, life was easier. When he asked for nothing, nobody pushed back. When he accepted his place, people felt comfortable around him. Being quiet became a skill. He learned when to smile. He learned when to nod. He learned how to agree without words. People liked him for that. They said he was polite. They said he was calm. They said he was mature for his age. But calm is not the same as being alive. In school, he followed every rule. He came on time. He did his work. He stayed invisible. Teachers trusted him, but they did not remember him. Other students passed by him like he was part of the wall. Sometimes he wanted to speak. A thought would rise inside him, a question, an idea, but before it reached his mouth, it stopped. He already knew the result. Someone else would speak louder. Someone else would be heard. So he swallowed the words and stayed quiet. The world rewarded him for that. There were no problems, no conflicts, no noise. He became easy to ignore. At home, it was the same. Decisions were made without him. Plans moved forward without his voice. He was present, but not included. He learned that presence and importance are not the same thing. Years passed. His body grew. His face changed, but inside, nothing moved. The same feeling followed him everywhere. He was safe. He was invisible. And slowly, this safety began to feel like a cage. He watched others move ahead, not because they were better, not because they were smarter, but because they took space. They spoke. They interrupted. They claimed attention, and the world answered them. He told himself a simple lie. This is fine. This is normal. This is who I am. But every time someone looked through him, the lie became harder to believe. The more he stayed quiet, the smaller he felt. The smaller he felt, the easier it was to stay quiet. The pattern was complete. He was learning how to disappear without leaving. One day, something changed. Not outside, but inside him. There was no loud event, no big moment, just a small realization that refused to leave. He was watching people again. He did this often, but this time he saw something clearly. The people who were noticed were not kinder. They were not wiser. They were not more right. They were simply louder. They took space, and the world gave way. For the first time, he felt a sharp thought. Silence is not neutral. Silence is a choice, and it is a choice that costs something. He remembered every moment he waited, every time he stayed quiet, every time he hoped someone would notice him on their own. Nobody ever did. That night, he did not sleep. His mind moved in circles. A simple question stayed with him. What if the problem is not them? What if the problem is me? This thought was painful, but it was also clear. The world does not search for quiet people. The world reacts to force. Not violence, not yet, just force of presence. He began to test this idea in small ways. He spoke before others. He did not wait. He held his voice a little longer. He noticed something immediately. People stopped. They listened. Not because his words were better, but because he did not disappear. This felt new, and it felt powerful. For the first time, he understood a rule he had missed before. Attention is not given, it is taken. He told himself he was not changing. He was only correcting a mistake. He had been too patient, too silent, too small. Now he was simply balancing things. But deep inside, another feeling appeared: relief. Not relief from pain, but relief from waiting. He was tired of hoping, tired of being invisible, tired of being nothing. This was the moment he crossed a line. Not a clear line, a quiet one. The kind that does not look dangerous until it is far behind you. And once he stepped over it, going back felt impossible. People started to notice him. Not all at once, but enough for him to feel it. When he entered a room, heads turned. When he spoke, others waited. When he decided something, it stayed decided. This was new, and it worked. He learned how to hold silence, not as weakness, but as pressure. He learned how to look at people until they looked away. He learned how to speak less, but mean more. Every movement became deliberate. Every word carried weight. Some people felt uncomfortable around him. Others felt drawn to him. A few felt afraid, but nobody ignored him anymore. That was the price of being seen, and he was ready to pay it.
Inside, the old loneliness began to fade, not because it was healed, but because it was covered. A tension filled the space where silence once lived. Control replaced waiting. Action replaced hope. He told himself this was necessary, that the world only understands strength, that respect must be earned, not asked for. And each time people reacted to him, this belief grew stronger. But something else was changing too. He stopped listening, not because he did not hear, but because he no longer needed to. Other voices became background noise. Other feelings became less important. The quiet questions inside him grew weaker. Power simplified everything. When people follow you, you do not have to doubt. When people fear you, you do not have to explain. When people watch you, you do not feel alone. Still, sometimes, late at night, the old silence returned, softer now, distant. It asked a question he tried not to hear. Is this who you wanted to become? He pushed the question away. There was no time for that. He had a place now. He was visible, and losing that felt worse than losing himself. He reached the place he once wanted. People saw him. People listened. People reacted. The world no longer passed him by. The silence was gone. But in its place, something else remained. A strange stillness, not empty, not loud, just heavy. He no longer asked why people ignored him. That question had lost its power. Now another question stood in front of him, one he did not know how to answer. What do you do when you are finally seen? He had taken a shape the world understood, strong, certain, untouchable. But inside that shape, something felt unfinished. The quiet child was gone. The patient observer was gone. And with them, something human had slipped away. Being seen gave him a place, but it did not give him peace. Sometimes he remembered how it felt to wait, how it felt to hope someone would notice him without fear, without control, without force. Those memories felt distant now, like a life that belonged to someone else. He did not regret his choices. Regret requires doubt, and doubt needs silence. He had neither. Still, when the noise faded, when the eyes turned away, when the room became empty, a simple truth remained. Visibility can fill space, but it cannot fill meaning.
Some people want love. Some want respect. Some only want to be seen. And sometimes, the way a person escapes silence becomes the thing that defines them forever. This was not a story about power. It was not a story about evil. It was a story about a man and the choices he made when nobody was watching.
Thanks! Please subscribe and like. Spin a new yarn with us every week.